This is the climax from Park Chan-wook's Oldboy. At last, Oh Dae-su learns the whole truth about Woo-jin's plan for revenge, and then he cuts off his own tongue. When you think of Oldboy, that iconic hallway hammer fight probably comes immediately. Fair enough, but I'd say this is the scene that defines Oldboy, because every tragedy began with his words. Dae-su is called a man who talks too much. His words aren't just chatter, they're central to the film. So, what do we find if we follow them more closely? He talks on and on, in the cell, after the cell. Even when someone on screen is talking to him, he replies in voiceover.
맞아요?
아직 쉽지도 않았다.
He's talking to us, not to her. Normally, narration explains the plot, but in Oldboy, much of it is just there to crack a smile with nothing to do with the story. His chatter glues the jump cuts together and lets us settle in. The more he talks, the less we question. Take this example. Mido has just told Dae-su where his daughter lives and where his wife is buried. Then this happens.
내일 무당 같이 가볼래요?
Mido asks. Dae-su says.
아니, 그 새끼 잡아 죽인 다음에.
Park chooses to use a voiceover layered over a face that's neither crying nor smiling. It's the kind of face that captures the film's whole vibe, shows up at the start, the middle, and the end. A face that's taken all the world's cruelty and ended up with this twisted kind of smile. Now, place a voiceover on that face.
아니, 그 새끼 잡아 죽인 다음에.
Well, that sort of feels diluted, almost funny, and the words steer us toward a single thought. How's he gonna get his revenge? That's how the film blinds us. The film doesn't let us dig into a deeper truth. We never get to sit with that face long enough to read it ourselves. We laugh, brush it off, move on. That's one of Park's misdirections. The voiceover hides the truth. Only at the climax does it all come out, and the grief digs in deeper. That's what gives us that twisted smile feeling. Oldboy's unique vibe, mixing something almost funny with deep sadness. If you've seen Spike Lee's 2013 remake, you'll know what I mean. There's basically no voiceover, just a couple of letters to his daughter at the start and the end. The plot's pretty much the same, but take away the voiceover, and Park's misdirection goes with it. What you're left with feels more straightforward. It feels almost like an ordinary thriller. Another way Park misdirects us is through Woo-jin. He gives us more to hear than to see.
보고 싶어요.
You hear his voice long before you see his face. And when it does appear, it's only in fragments. That absence makes him feel less like a man in the story and more like a presence pressing on it. Imagination inflates him into something bigger than reality. So by the time his full face finally shows up halfway through,
잘 가라 오대수.
we don't meet him as an ordinary man. We're already conditioned to read him as a larger-than-life force looming over Dae-su's story. Here's the moment Dae-su and Woo-jin finally stand face to face. Park frames Woo-jin's mouth in a close-up, forcing our attention onto his words. The image doesn't just show a man speaking, it magnifies his authority, his presence. Through all this, Park makes Woo-jin feel larger than life and misdirects us again. You can see it even more clearly when you look at the remake. You still hear Woo-jin's voice first, but it gives you more of him visually. And when Dae-su finally confronts him, Spike Lee just frames it as a plain dialogue scene. He comes across like merely another villain. Here's the question. How long does Park Chan-wook keep us in the dark? Right up until the climax. The truth stays buried, then explodes all at once. In that moment, we see through every shattering revelation. Woo-jin's no god, and Dae-su's not just a victim. They are both villains and victims caught up in their shared mess. All along, they've just been vulnerable human beings, fated to face the truth harsher than any lie. But the truth doesn't linger long. Woo-jin takes his own life. Dae-su erases his memory. Different paths, same escape. Neither could bear the weight of the truth. For Dae-su, it's the devastating knowledge that he fell in love with his own daughter. For Woo-jin, it's the crushing realization that he let go of his sister's hand. When I think back on everything we've talked about, I guess Oldboy really is saying this. The truth just to have it to carry. You can feel that theme in how the story is built too. Park once said the most important thing in writing Oldboy was structure, like how the narration keeps changing hands. It starts with Dae-su talking to a dying man, then Mido reads his memoir. After that, Dae-su speaks directly to her, and in the end, the hypnotist reads his letter. The whole film is made up of different forms of recollection. This structure of recollection carries over into the off-screen voices. We hear someone speak, but there's no face, no body.
그게 그렇게 큰 죄야?
Just a voice floating over the image.
모래알이든 바위덩어리든 물에 가라앉긴 마찬가지다. 이게 이우진 생각이야.
In those moments, it stops feeling like a film and starts to feel like a tale told from one person to another. Almost like folklore. When stories are passed down by word of mouth, what matters isn't truth, it's survival. That's why, in the end, the only stories we hear are the ones that survive. And so the last scene stays ambiguous. It offers the final truth. Instead, it hides that truth behind words. The words fill our ears, but keep our eyes blind. So we look, but we don't really see. Set aside the noise of words. Open your eyes, look again. You might just find a deeper truth.